We are live. Welcome to my video. This is going to be my thoughts on The Walking Dead Season 3, Episode 7, When the Dead Come Knockin'. This episode is rated TVMA, so will this video be. And like all other videos I've done on this show, this will have spoilers for the episode itself and all the ones leading up to it, all of which I love. Let's dive right in. So, yeah, I really appreciate the tension. There's a lot of scenes of tension in this entire episode. Where to start? Glenn and Merle, because he is still very much, you know, you leave one guy chained on a rooftop, you know, abandon him to his very likely death at the hands of walkers, and he never stops talking about it. Seriously though, yeah, understandable. He is still quite upset about it, and in part blames Glenn, who was present and accounted for. And let's see, yeah, he finds out that, you know, T-Dog died. You know, and it's just like, oh, well, I hope he went slow. You know, he still hates him that much, even in that, yeah. And yeah, he beats Glenn in the hopes of getting the information out of him. And Glenn fights back. It's just such a badass. He really has, you know, yeah, become much more forceful himself, Glenn has. And the thing with the when you know, Glenn pushes it just a little bit too far. You know, he's trying to sound like, oh, you know, we're dangerous. So he mentions, you know, some of the tougher ones, including Jim and Shane. And then he fucks up by including Andrea. You know, like, he almost definitely thinks that she's dead and that no one has found her body. He obviously does not know that she's right there in Woodbury. I did actually wonder if they were going to have her come in and try to appeal to either Glenn or Maggie, but yeah, I mean, they don't want her knowing that they would take her friends as prisoners. She might not be 100% on board with Woodbury. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And yeah, you know, even a walker right in front of Glenn does not get him talking. And Merle just releases it. And, you know, yeah, somewhere Seth Green is like, I told you, I have a gun in my room. I can go get it right now. We can do this together. But seriously, though, yeah, understandable that they would figure he wouldn't be able to get out of that. That was one of the best scenes of, like, a human fighting a walker in the show so far. I had no idea how he was going to... I was hoping he was going to be able to get out of it, but I really wasn't sure how. And the scene sold me on it, you know. All the little touches, every single little detail, how he slowly breaks the chair, you know, blocking the walker with the, I think it's like a bed frame, and, you know, stabbing it with the sharp pieces, just, and the part where the walker bites at him, so he holds up his arm, and it's gonna take a little bit to get through the duct tape. You know, that's part of the point of duct tape. You know, it doesn't break super easily, you know, so just, yeah, some really great, and the, you know, after all that, he just lets out a shout, you know, just all the tension, you know, released. And it, you know, it was one of those great, like, because at the end of the day, it doesn't mean his freedom. It just, he bought himself some more time. You know, Merle is still plenty happy for him to die. And when, you know, right, I love the detail that they're in adjoining rooms so Maggie can hear Glenn's screams. You know, that's clearly purposeful. Woodbury's definitely large enough that they could have put them in completely separate buildings, but she's meant to hear it. And let's see, yeah, when the governor talks to Maggie, I quite appreciate that. At first, it was very much, yeah, it seems like the governor is going to try to play good cop to Merle's bad cop. And when that doesn't work, he changes tactics. And I really appreciate that the scene of him trying to get information out of her underlines something that sadly a lot of people don't realize. Sexual assault is not purely about sex. It is largely about power. We know that, it's not like the governor is just like super sexually frustrated. He had sex with Andrea earlier in the episode, and I'm slightly torn on, we get a brief shot of her, like, putting her clothes back on. We see, like, some laundry kind of thing going on there. And, yeah, see, when I first saw it, I was like, that feels slightly gratuitous, but they did need to underline, they had sex. She was there specifically for sex. That's, part of why she dressed like that. She even says she'll come back later. There's... So yeah, it is at this point a regular thing between the two of them, and he still, there's an implied sexual threat with Maggie. Now, I understand that this was a scene that some have felt is exploitative, others do not, so I'm slightly torn on it, so for now I'll just go over. So, yeah, something I saw someone, let's see, some research here. Yeah, let's see, yeah, the scene is undeniably uncomfortable and distressing. It meant to highlight his cruelty, psychological manipulation, rather than outright physical assault. However, whether it crosses into exploitative territory depends on perspective. Some arguments for it being exploitative is the unnecessary sexualized violence. Some argue the scene leans into the trope of using threats of sexual violence against female characters for shock value rather than for meaningful storytelling. There's the power dynamics and viewer discomfort. The governor's psychological torment of Maggie could be seen as excessive. Some viewers might feel the scene lingers too long or too explicitly on her suffering, and a lack of aftermath exploration. If a show uses traumatic events but doesn't fully explore their impact on the character, it can feel like trauma is being used simply for drama rather than meaningful character development. And some arguments that it's justified storytelling is that it establishes the governor's villainy, which I will say, I mean, that had already been done. Anyway, the scene solidifies him as a manipulative, sadistic antagonist, showing how he exerts power over others. I did quite like Michonne calling him saying he was like Jim Jones. And back to the research, Maggie's strength. It's also a moment that highlights Maggie's resilience and defiance, refusing to break even under intense intimidation, and not explicitly sexualized. While the threat is present, the show does not actually depict sexual assault or nudity in a gratuitous way. Now, to that, I would add, we don't see any nudity, and the scene tends to focus more on her face. Like, there's a little bit where, as she's removing the bra, we do see, her breasts, not nude, but yeah. But yeah, it's it's not very male gazy. If it had been, there would be people saying, oh, but it's emulating the governor's POV. It's that kind of thing. Which is very convenient for there are scenes like that have exactly that kind of defense. I would argue it's not. I don't think I've personally ever seen a scene of sexual assault that needed any kind of male gaze or, eroticism. And yeah, I really appreciate that it's not here either. And yeah, she says, do what you gotta do and then go to hell. She is not giving up. He's trying to break her. And she's saying, that's not gonna happen. And so he stops. Because it's not about sex for him. It's genuinely just him trying to have power over her, and when he sees that that's not, it's not working, yeah, that's it. Let's see. I think that covers. Yeah, and good character moment that, when the governor has the two of them in the same room, Glenn and Maggie. At first he points his gun at Maggie. Neither of them say anything, and then he points it at Glenn, and she says it. And yeah, I do believe that Glenn would resist even at that. Even, whether the gun is pointed at her or him, he resists. But that Maggie would not be able to resist when it's pointed at Glenn. It's not like she's weak or something, but in part it's the fact that she cares so deeply about the people that she cares about. She's used to taking care of people to an extent that just he isn't quite as much, like maybe more recently for him as well, like the last 8 months and such. But for her it's a lifetime. Her entire life she's been taking care of her family, and to her by now Glenn is family. And yeah, I think that covers. Yeah, I'm really, really psyched to see the next episode, which I'm thinking will be the day after tomorrow or the day after that. One of those two. I'll do the next episode, because that is quite the cliffhanger. So, yeah. Michonne, Oscar, and Rick are on their way to, yeah, trying to get into Woodbury. The governor and a couple of others know that they might well be on their way, but the guards don't yet. So that's, yeah, I genuinely don't know who's going to beat the other group to the punch. So yeah, that's very, very nicely tense, because that's the, Michonne and the others don't really think that there is, they certainly hope to get there before anyone realizes. So yeah, that they're there on their way. Now, let's see. Yeah, Merle is amazing as Michael Rooker always is. I like the fact that, like, when he's confronted, we could use him. Why did you try to kill him? He was pissing me off, and the other guy's like, okay, remind me to never ever cross you. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. And let's see, the thing with Milton was genuinely, I appreciate the various explorations of, some people are just in denial. Herschel was in denial and kept them in a barn, and Milton genuinely thinks, like, to the point where he removes the restraint, and he's like, oh, he can't lift his right hand, just, yeah. And that was such a great, because, like, yeah, he said, raise your right hand if you agree, just, yeah, such a great, because, and of course immediately he does grab, and Andrea's like, I remember Amy, I know you weren't there for that, and I guess you don't watch the show before you join it, but this is not going to go the way you think it's going to. And yeah, she just immediately, knife in the head. Yeah. And, Milton is like, this was a triumph. I see this as an absolute win. Memory retention. And the, let's see. Yeah, I think that covers that. Let's see. I think. Yeah, and I also really appreciate it, because they could easily have had, when we meet him, for him to already be a walker, but we do briefly see, yeah, he was a human being. When we meet him, he is a human being. He had a life. He had a wife before he had a knife in the head. Just, yeah. And let's see. I think that covers all of the Woodbury stuff. So let's see. Yeah. Some really great tension also when, Michonne is right there. She's got the supplies for them, and the bleeding from her gunshot wound does mean a walker starts taking interest in her, and yeah, she's still a badass even with the gunshot wound and yeah. But yeah, at first Rick doesn't quite know if he can trust her, because did she hurt Maggie and Glenn to get those things, and then show up hoping that they would think that she was, a Good Samaritan or something, and they take her sword away, which we already know, and this time she legit is locked in a cell. The governor was careful to not lock more doors than was absolutely necessary. There were guards there watching, but that doesn't have the same psychological effect as a locked door, because a guard, you could always say, we didn't know for sure kind of thing, but a locked door says, I don't trust you. So there's a very real, it feels like there's no chance. When there's another human being there, you feel like there's, maybe some hope that you can be seen as, so yeah. I think that does bring us to... Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, Rick does genuinely trust Carl to do that. He's like, no, Dad, I can do this, and he's like, I know. I just wanted to give you last minute directions. This is not about me making sure that you can actually handle this. You could tell it's not him spitballing, oh, he's okay, no, I can think of something. No, he went there to tell him this is what you should do. I trust you with this, which is, that's something that you love to hear from your parents, yeah, I like the thing of, the name, and Rick chuckling at little ass kicker. So she's Judith now. Yeah, great stuff with the little cabin and the guy, sleeping with yeah, fully armed, and if he sees someone, he aims the gun at them, refuses to put it down. So yeah, zombie apocalypse or not, this is just a Southerner. And yeah, the fact that, Michonne, I don't know exactly how else they would have been able to handle it. Obviously, it is messed up, as Oscar notes, which I also do really appreciate. He ends up not going with, but, the other con also is like, you know what, I'm in 100%. Axel rose to the occasion. But yeah, she does kill him, and it is, yeah, she is just as capable of killing humans as walkers. The stab, I think realistically that would have killed him pretty instantly in real life as well. I feel like it's a slightly too high for it to be heart, but it might be another major organ. There's some of them, it will almost immediately, yeah. Let's see, yeah, and they use him, they throw him out there. Sure hope that what the zombie extras were eating was tastier than what it was in the original Night of the Living Dead. Yeah, it was, according to IMDb trivia, it was barbecue, and for the vegetarians, it was stuffing, or let's see, I have it right here. Let's see, yeah, vegetarian stuffing. That's a great one, considering some places, some people, if they throw a barbecue, the only vegan options will be make do or fuck off. Yeah. Let's see, yeah, the fact that, the reunion, Carol, and the others. You know, it's a great moment. I really appreciate. She still does. You know, we're told, you know, she was dehydrated. She still looks like, I'm sure she got something to drink off screen, but yeah, you know, it takes a little while. It's not just you have a, you know, slight sip and then immediately you're 100%. She's moving a little slower than usual. She's looking kind of tired and such, you know. And it's such a great moment because obviously it is joyous for, you know, all of them care about, you know, Carol, and Carol cares about all of them. But there is this bittersweet thing to it, because as great as it is to be reunionized, yeah, I know, reunited is the right way to say that, that also means that she now knows that Lori died. You know, it's such a great, like, the show is so good at this, of having a moment that is like, there's something positive, but there's also, it's tinged with the negative, you know, on the count of the zombie apocalypse, and just, you know, they can be few and far between, the moments of joy, so you take them where you can find them, and really hold on to them, and you take the good with the bad.